Hello, I'm Kevin O'Hare with Kentucky Department of Education's Office of Assessment and Accountability. I work in the Division of Assessment and Accountability Support. I'm excited to bring to you today the first of two parts specific to the Overview Attainment Task training. I want to share that before you start the training, you will need to download the administration guide for today's training. A link can be found here on the opening slide. It is also found on the alternate K-Prep resources page. Many quiz questions will come from the administration guide, so it's critical to have access to it. Part 1 of today's training will focus on an overview of the assessment, along with key dates and requirements to prepare you for a successful administration. I also want to share that there are live links in this training. However, in order to access the links from this training, you must view this PowerPoint in slideshow view. So if the notes are displayed or you see slides going up and down the left side of your screen, you are not viewing in slideshow view. The first thing I want to discuss today are the changes that took effect for the 2020-21 school year. It was decided over the summer that the Alternate Assessment and Accountability folder, or what you probably know as the AAAF, will no longer be required at the state level. The district may continue to use the folder if they choose to, but this is something that KDE will no longer utilize as a monitoring tool. The next change that will be implemented for the 2020-2021 school year is that social studies will now be administered at grade 11. So in the past, social studies was administered at grade 12 in high school. However, to better align with the general assessment and the results from the survey that was conducted in January of 2020, the change to move social studies to grade 11 was a combination of both. Another change this year was the release of the alternate assessment targets for reading, mathematics, writing, and social studies. I want to emphasize that these are not alternate assessment standards. These are Kentucky academic standards that may or may not contain an alternate assessment target. If you are wondering what an alternate assessment target is, that is a limit in depth and breadth to a standard for assessment purposes only. So in other words, these targets just apply to the development of assessment items. The intention, as it always has been, is to teach the Kentucky academic standards. The last area of change for this school year is that we will be conducting an operational field test in the spring of 2021. An operational field test means that the assessment will be conducted using field tested items that have gone through many reviews to try and eliminate any issues or concerns around content alignment. These items will be used for accountability as long as an accountable assessment is conducted in the spring of 2021. To learn more about each of these topics, you can click the information on this slide with the live links, and it will direct you to the presentation where it was shared this summer. The announcement around the standards and targets were released for reading and mathematics in May. All other announcements on this page came in a special alternate assessment email on June the 18th. Another important highlight to note is the first time administration of the Quality of School Climate and Safety Survey to alternate assessment students. Now, if you'll recall, back in February, the general assessment conducted a field test, and at that time, the Quality of School Climate and Safety Survey was administered to students. However, in March, when COVID hit, everything ceased at that point. Well, the alternate assessment did not get administered this past spring, and in that time frame, that was also when the Quality of School Climate and Safety Survey was to be conducted to alternate assessment students. So this will be the first official year that the Quality of School Climate and Safety Survey is administered to students participating in the Kentucky alternate assessment. This survey is a required part of accountability that must be administered to all students, and this includes those in the alternate assessment. There are surveys represented for students at grades 3 through 5, and then grades 6 through high school designed specifically for students who will be assessed. This means if a student is not in an assessment year, they will not be responsible for completing the survey. The survey for alternate assessment students consists of 10 questions with 4 answer options. The 4 answer options are the same as what is provided to students completing the survey for the general assessment. One very important point to note is that in high school, only students in grades 10 and 11 will complete this survey. We are aligning the requirements 100% with the general assessment. So students in grades 9, 12, or 14 in the Kentucky Alternate Assessment will not complete the survey. The survey questions are found all year round on the Kentucky Department of Education's website. You will go to the Assessment Accountability page and select Accountability from the drop-down menu. There you will select Quality of School Climate and Safety. Once that page loads, there will be 2 documents. One will be specifically for students in grades 3 through 5, and the other for students in grades 6 through high school. The Student Registration Database, or the SRD, will house scores from the survey. The scores may be entered for, beginning February 15th, 2021. Now that we know what is different and the important changes for the upcoming school year, or for the current school year, let's turn our focus back to the test and what is required before you administer. First and foremost, before you administer any Kentucky State assessment, you must receive the Administration Code training and the Inclusion of Special Populations training. If these trainings are not completed, then no test administration should ever occur. And last but not least, if you are completing this training, you will more than likely also be administering the alternate K-Prep. So this training is also a requirement to administer the attainment task. The alternate K-Prep is made up of 2 assessment types, attainment task and the transition attainment record, or TAR. Attainment tasks are administered this year to students in grades 3 through 11 in reading, mathematics, writing, science, and social studies, depending on which content is assessed at specific grade range. We will actually look at those required areas in slides 10, 11, and 12. Attainment tasks are actually picture-based multiple choice assessments, fully scripted and read by the test administrator. There are 2 test windows for the alternate K-Prep attainment task administration. Window 1 this year is February 15th through March 26th, and window 2 is April 19th through May 28th. When administering the attainment task, test administrators will read the script word for word, present their student with the question and the option of 3 answer choices. Once your student responds, the answer is then recorded on the paper copy of the answer sheet provided with the actual material shipment. After the administration is over, the answers are then recorded electronically in the Student Registration Database, or the SRD, after you have been activated by your DAC, DOS, or District Level Alternate Assessment Administrator. Part 2 of this training will focus solely on attainment tasks and the components related to the administration. The Transition Attainment Record, or the TAR, is only administered at the high school level. It aligns with the ACT requirements at grade 11. For any students not meeting benchmark and hoping to use the TAR score for the academic portion of post-secondary readiness, the TAR may also be administered at grades 12 and 14, as long as a graduation code has not been assigned at grade 14. A training specific to the TAR was made available on October 5th. The participation guidelines for the Kentucky Alternate Assessment went through some major revisions starting in the fall of 2017. These revisions were completed and new guidelines were released in February 15th of 2018. For any questions about participation in the Kentucky Alternate Assessment, I encourage you to contact our friends in the Office of Special Education and Early Learning. Tanya Sharp in the Division of IDEA Monitoring the Results is the lead. She does an amazing job with placement decisions and the participation process in its entirety. Slide 10 focuses on the content areas that will be assessed at the elementary level. One thing to note is that many schools have a different grade configuration. So your school may not be a 3 through 5 grade span. It may be a 3 through 6 or a 3 through 4. The 3 through 5 grade span is used at the state level, as that is how district accountability is represented. Just as a reminder, we shared on slide 2 of this training that the assessment this year will in fact be an operational field test. So you'll note on these slides 10, 11, and 12, the content area is field tested for this year. Slide 11 reflects the required content areas being assessed at middle school. Slide 12 looks at the high school content areas to be assessed. If you will note in red, grade 9 and grade 12 no longer have attainment tasks administered at those grades. Nothing is assessed at grade 9. It is focused more on a transition year from middle to high school, and only the TAR is available for those who choose to take it at grade 12. Again, the grade 12 TAR is not mandatory like it is in grade 11. It is optional, but available. A student completing the alternate CAPREP will be tested based on the grade listed for him or her in Infinite Campus. It is critical that the grade placement be correct in IC in November or no later than December this year before rosters for the fall window on assessments are pulled. Once a student participating in the Kentucky Alternate Assessment has completed grade 12 and they plan to remain in school until age 21, they may then be identified in Infinite Campus as a grade 14 student. If you're not familiar with the alternate CAPREP webpage, I encourage you to venture out on the KDE website. Locate the Assessment and Accountability site on the homepage, select Assessments in the drop-down, and then double-click the alternate CAPREP program link. So what happens now? Well, if you haven't already printed a copy of the administration guide provided along with this training, please do so. If you have students in grades 11, 12, and or 14 who need to take the TAR, that training was released on October 5th. You may also visit the Special Alternate Assessment email from October 2nd to receive additional details specific to the TAR training that was released. Anyone planning to administer the alternate CAPREP this fall or this spring must complete this training along with Part 2, which will follow. Complete the qualifying quiz on the online training system. Complete the administration code and inclusion of special populations training, all by February 10th. This just has to be completed one time per year. The quiz is 20 questions, 3 of which are mandatory and must be answered correctly to receive a passing score. This training, along with the qualifying quiz, serves as a review each year before you administer the alternate CAPREP assessments. This concludes Part 1 of this training. Stay tuned for Part 2, where we will specifically talk about the attainment task administration.